Bonjour mes amis, je m'appelle Tito, je fais des vidéos sur les finances personnelles sur mon autre chaîne, mais sur cette chaîne je parle d'autres choses comme aujourd'hui, où je vais revoir le film Adire.
When a street worker steals her employer's money and flees to a small town, she tries to start over and make a new life for herself by selling handmade lingerie made from local fabric. Adire, as she's fondly called, becomes loved and admired by all except the local preacher's wife, who all the local church-going women in town fear and respect. Eventually, Adire's past life ultimately catches up with her and she fights to preserve her freedom and the new life she's created for herself. Adire is directed by Damilola Ogunsi.
Okay guys, let me start by saying that I'm going to pause a lot in this video to pick my words very carefully. This particular portion of the review, I've probably filmed it like 7 times now because I just find it hard to find the words to describe how this movie made me feel and to express to the people who made this movie, who may be watching this review, that the things that I'm going to say in this review are not personal and that they shouldn't take them, the wrong way. It's just a bit tough when you feel strongly about something and you want to express yourself, but at the same time you're trying to be sensitive and you're trying not to hurt people's feelings. I hope you understand what I mean. In the course of this review, it will make more sense. Yeah, let me put it like that. I say this because I really don't want to do another take of this particular portion of the review. Okay, first of all, this review will contain spoilers because Adire is currently on streaming. So if you want to see the film or you don't want to hear spoilers, more like it, please go and watch Adire and then come back to watch this review. Now, as I mentioned just now, this review will not be entirely positive. You see, I didn't enjoy the film. I saw it twice. First at a special screening before the movie was released in cinemas late last year, and then again on Friday when it came out on Netflix. Now, the fact that I did not enjoy the film doesn't necessarily mean that the film was bad. And I say this for the benefit, once again, of the people who made the movie that may be watching this review. It's not that your film was bad per se, it was just that I'm not who you made this film for. You know who you made this film for. And those people, I think they enjoyed it, right? There are already reviews on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter of people who enjoyed this movie. It just so happens that I did not enjoy the film. So it's not like, once again, not as if you made a bad film, it's just that it wasn't for me. So please don't take the things I say in this review to heart, okay? Yes, I've never made a film before. You guys are professional filmmakers. You do this year in and year out. I have 0 movies and 0 scripts to my name. So that should let you know how much importance or weight you should place on my opinion concerning your film, which as at today, Sunday, 2 days after its release, 2 days after its release, is number 2 on Netflix in Nigeria. Okay? So yeah, I hope we're clear. That said, guys, let's dive into it, beginning with the performances. Now, I'm going to breeze through the performances really quickly, so I'll just say 1 or 2 things about the actors, because I'm really just trying to get to what I didn't like about this film. First of all, Kehinde Bankole, who plays Asari / Adire in this movie, she does really well. She's believable as a lady of the night, and I think this is the most sultry or sexy character we've seen Kehinde Bankole play on screen, right? And she did it well. She was believable. At times, the character was happy, especially when she flees and starts this new life. And at times she's conflicted, right? And she delivers. The acting was good from Kehinde Bankole. Next, let's talk about Funlola Awofiebi-Remi, who plays Folashade, the pastor's wife in this movie. I think the acting from Funlola Awofiebi-Remi was probably the best in this film, as this pastor's wife who has like some kind of a god complex and who is trying to keep the peace and keep everyone in check and whatnot. She pulled it off. The way she spoke, the way she carried herself, the acting from Funlola Awofiebi-Remi was really good. I enjoyed it. And let me just quickly say this. I think that character, Folashade, was the only character in this film who really we knew her motivations. The characterization was actually good with Folashade, because we knew, or we were informed through dialogue and whatnot, that her father had this church, he passed away, and rather than giving the church to her, she gave it to her husband, and that caused a bit of resentment between her and her husband. So we understood that character a bit and why she was acting the way she did. We didn't get that privilege or that luxury with many of the other characters in this film. Who else do I want to talk about? Femi Branch, who plays Pastor Mide in this film. This man of God, the husband of Funlola Ofiebiremi's character. I was not impressed. I feel like they could have done more to make Femi Branch look like a pastor. I mean, pastors have so many nuances and so many things that they do, both in front of the congregation or behind the pulpit and in their day-to-day lives. I feel like Femi Branch did not really capture that pastor look. Be it an Orthodox pastor or an unorthodox pastor or a Pentecostal pastor, it wasn't giving. He wasn't very believable as a pastor. And that kind of pained me because Femi Branch is a fantastic actor. I enjoyed the guy's performances, and it would have been really nice to see him in this capacity if he had done it really well. But I just don't think it was required of him. They didn't ask him to really pull off that pastor persona in a very believable manner, which is sad because I feel like the film could have done with that, especially since they were insistent on injecting Christianity and religion into this film. I feel a certain way about that, but let's stick to the script, right? Christianity and religion was a big aspect of this film and the plot. So I feel as a result, they needed a strong religious figure in this film, but they didn't have one. Femi Branch's character, Mide, didn't command the kind of religious leadership that this film could have, done with. Ifeanyi Kalu as Thomas, who starts a relationship with Adire at some point. I had a serious issue with that character, Thomas, but let me stick with Ifeanyi Kalu's performance, right? This film, I think, was the first time I paid attention to Ifeanyi Kalu. I've seen him in other things, but I never paid attention to the guy. But when I saw him in this movie months ago at the cinema, at the special screening, I felt like Ifeanyi Kalu was not a good actor. Because of this character, Thomas, that he was playing, I don't think he was the man for this job. Thomas is a wet blanket. He's a loser, pretty much, right? That's the character in the movie, right? You don't get somebody like Ifeanyi Kalu to play a loser. Ifeanyi Kalu doesn't look like a loser. It was when I saw him in War, Wrath and Revenge, just like last week on Netflix, that I was like, this guy is a really good actor. I thought he wasn't a good actor when I saw him in Adire, but seeing him in Wrath and Revenge, he was commanding, he was believable, he was so good in that series that I was like, yeah. The problem was that they didn't cast Thomas properly. You don't cast somebody like Ifeanyi Kalu to play a weakling, all right? So as a result, I just wasn't feeling Ifeanyi Kalu's performance in this movie. And let me just keep it at that. I'll talk more about why I really didn't like Thomas's character when I talk about what I didn't like about the movie, right? Moving on to Yvonne Jegede, who plays Shalewa in this movie. Yvonne Jegede did a good job. It was believable. If the assignment was to play a woman who isn't well educated, who is the wife of a man who cheats and who is a drunk and all that, and who is just trying to save her marriage the best way she knows how, I think Yvonne Jegede did a decent enough job. Okay, Kelechi Udebe plays her husband. Can't remember the guy's name, but he plays her husband in the film. I think this was the first time I was seeing Kelechi Udebe playing a Yoruba man. It was good. It was believable. The guy was jovial. Kelechi Udebe always brings 110% whenever he plays a character on the big screen, even on the small screen. I've been a fan of his since Officer Titus on Ndani TV, almost more than 10 years ago. Moving on, who else was in this film? Tomi Ojo was in the movie as Simi. Afolarin was in the movie as well as the guy that impregnated Simi. Oh, Yemi Blaq as Captain, i.e. Adire's or Asari's pimp, right? I wasn't buying it. They tried their best to make Captain look like this scary pimp / gangster. They gave him the walking stick. They used makeup to put a scar down, his eye. They gave him the hat and everything. The guy was not intimidating. He wasn't scary. He made terrible decisions as a businessman. you know, so the guy did not command any kind of fear or respect from us, the viewers. Well, let me speak for myself. I just wasn't buying it, especially given the poor decisions that Captain kept on making throughout the film. More on that when I talk about what I didn't like about the film. Finally, Jakenneth Opukeme, who plays the character Tunde, and that's the guy who went to go and burn down Asari / Adire's house. The guy that was going, my God, is an all-consuming fire, right? So he also wrote this movie, right? And fun fact, he also wrote Battle on Booker Street. Clearly, Jakenneth, he knows how to write for the audience, you know, the audience being the average Nigerian, the common man. Because Battle on Booker Street, up until a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, was the highest grossing Nollywood film in history. That's up until A Tribe Called Judah came and, you know, took that #1 position. So Jakenneth has written films, he has written the script for a one-time highest grossing Nollywood film, right? And he wrote the script of this movie, Adire as well, and he also plays the character Tunde. So clearly, he understands the market, he understands what he's doing. But I don't know how I got on that road, but let me come to his performance as Tunde in this film. Tunde, the character, seems like an unstable, religious extremist. You know, for him to have gone to go and burn somebody's house down, he's an extremist, and he did it in the name of religion or whatnot, right? So that's who Tunde, the character, was. In terms of Jakenneth pulling off or playing that character or making that character believable, I'd say he did a good job. The character was believable. When, you know, it got to the point in the film where they were doing close-ups on the guy as if the guy was going to do something despicable, it seemed believable, right? So I'd say Jakenneth did a good job. What I didn't like, you know, with the way I feel about this movie, there's no point in me trying to pretend like there was anything I liked about this film, so we're just going straight into what I didn't like about the film. In front of me, I have my notes. In these notes, I have 18 things that I did not like about Adire. I'm going to try and breeze through them. If I don't touch on any of them, I will list them in the comment section or in the description box down below. Let's go. First of all, enough wasn't done to establish that Asari / Adire wasn't happy with the life she was living. You know, in the beginning of the film, she steals money, she takes off, but they did not establish that this character was not happy with her life. Because you can't assume that all women or all ladies of the night are not happy with what they do for a living. And they just did not establish. She had a bad incident with a client, and then she sleeps with her pimp, and then she steals the guy's money and she takes off. Had she been planning to take off? Was she really dissatisfied with the life she'd been living? Had she been... Where did this come from? It just seemed quite sudden. Now, speaking about the money that she stole, I watched that part as Asari takes bundles of 1,000 naira, you know, and wraps them in her dress and she bounces. I counted like 10 bundles, 10 to somewhere between 10 and 15 bundles. Now, a bundle of 1,000 naira notes is 100,000. So Asari took anywhere between 1 million and 1.5 million naira. I mean, it's a lot of money, but at the same time, it's not a lot of money. It seems like an amount that Captain should have let slide. Perhaps Captain wasn't pissed by the money. He was just pissed that his prized woman or prized worker had disappeared, right? So maybe that's what his issue was. But that money didn't seem like it was that much, let alone enough for somebody to move to another town, rent a duplex, use some of the money as startup capital, and to also be living kind of lavishly. 1.5 million, even in a small place like Oyo Town, I don't know how far that can really take one. Next, the movie is about second chances at the end of the day, but the movie is obscured with so much fluff, so much unnecessary things that it's actually hard for you to see that that's what this film was about. Because just last night, Saturday night, 2 people told me, who are also quite perplexed by this film and dissatisfied with it, they told me that they didn't, at the end of the day, know what this movie was about. I'm the one who, after I had to sit and think about it myself, I'm the one that now told them that this film was about second chances and forgiveness. Because think about it. Asari moves to a new town for a second chance. She seeks, to be accepted by the women of the church and the pastor's wife. Also, Thomas, the layabout, good-for-nothing guy, he's looking for a second chance at love after losing his wife. Also, Tomi Ojo's character, Simi, the daughter that gets pregnant, she's looking for a second chance with her, her parents, even though she's now going to become a young mother and all that. New beginnings, second chances and all that. And even the Pastor Media and his wife, Folashade, they look like they're going to have like a second chance at their marriage now that their daughter is pregnant and things have just changed. So I think the film is about fresh starts, forgiveness, and second chances. However, there's just so much going on in this film, so many unnecessary elements to it, that it makes it really hard to see what this movie is about, what the moral of the story is about. Okay? Moving on to the next thing I didn't like about this film. Captain was a very weak and uninspiring villain. I say that again. Captain was a very weak and uninspiring villain. First of all, he sleeps with Asari and he's so knocked out that he doesn't notice when she, takes his money and leaves. And he's just so not about business and not focused about what matters that Asari comes, he forgets he's counting his money, doesn't even keep the money somewhere, he sleeps with her, he falls asleep, she steals the money. So there's all that. But all this is to one side, right? The most incompetent thing about Captain was the people he surrounded himself with. The night Asari stole his money at the beginning of the film, where were his goons, his bodyguards? Did they not see her leaving his room with what would have looked like money in her dress, wrapped in her dress? Also, towards the end of the film, when Asari manages to escape Captain and goes back to her place and she's packing her things, she wants to escape again. Where were his goons? When he finds her in Oyo town, should she not have been on 24-hour surveillance? When he has the scuffle with Asari shortly after in that room and she knocks him out, where were his goons and bodyguards? And then the building is catching fire, their boss is in the building. Where were his goons? These are people he employed. He had more than one bodyguard. In the end credits, I counted like 4 or 5 actors that played Captain's bodyguards. And he wasn't even, when he found Asari in Oyo town, and he knew that he wanted to use her and her business to expand his business, make more money, and to do this partnership with Tega, why didn't he just take her and then head back to Lagos and get the ball rolling? Why did he hang out in Oyo town? And he even moved a lot of his operation to Oyo town. His girls, his touts, his bodyguards. Why? He was a very uninspiring, very daft, very uninspiring once again villain. Moving on. Thomas as Adire's love interest was a 0. Number 1, Thomas was a loser. Number 2, he kept terrible company. Thomas was friends with those other 2 guys that were always at the bar getting drunk and cheating on their wives. So he kept terrible company. He sought to be, yes, and this is you guys have missed this one, but I want you to get it now. Thomas, who was a damaged man, there are other women in this village, mind you. He didn't meet any of them and start a relationship with them, apparently. Thomas himself said that in 5 years, the only woman he had spoken to was his mother. Okay? Another indication that the guy is a loser. He sees Adire, tries to pick her up, offers her money, goes back to her place, now wants to try and be in a relationship with her. He bypasses the customer-client thing, and he's now coming with the emotional angle, trying to get into her life as her man. You could say that Thomas is a damaged man looking for someone more damaged than he is to have a relationship with. And he now used emotional manipulation to get with Asari or Adire and her till she fell for it and they became an item. Will that not breed a very toxic relationship? Does that not make Thomas look like a toxic douchebag? Forgetting the fact that the guy is a loser. They never even tell us what Thomas does for a living throughout this film. And in the earlier portion of the film, he looks haggard. His shirt is always rumpled. He looks like a good-for-nothing lout. But when him and Asari, become an item, he starts looking put together. The guy was toxic. He was a user and a manipulator, if you ask me. And that's another thing that I didn't like about this film. You know, they show us that Thomas and Asari are now an item, they click, but they do not show us how they click. They do not show us two of them having a conversation and bonding over their past or anything like that. They show us when they have that fight. They show us when he goes to go and, bring her suya, and she says, oh, is there pomo inside or something, and he goes back. But if you notice, they don't show us two of them actually having a meaningful conversation or bonding. Because I asked myself, how does somebody like Thomas, how does that kind of person bond with somebody like Asari? What kind of conversation will they have to find common ground and now become boyfriend and girlfriend and not customer and clients? Do you get my point? So they don't do that groundwork. They just force it on us and let us do a lot of the homework. And that's another issue I had with this film. There's a lot that is missing in terms of dialogue in this film. They leave it to us to do the thinking, to try and put the pieces together and figure it out on our own. And that, my friends, boys and girls, is what I call lazy writing. My voice is getting hoarse. I feel anxious. I'm feeling anxiety. I'm feeling like this video is getting really long. So I think the other things I didn't like about this film, I will just write in the comment section down below. You guys can have at it. But I'm pretty much done talking about the things that I didn't like about this movie, and I just want to wrap it up. No. One more. I just glanced at my notes and I saw one that I just have to talk about. Captain's body in the burning house. Remember, Adire knocks him out in the bedroom. Then Mr. My God is a consuming fire throws the house, the domestic bomb thingy into the room. The room catches fire, right? Captain is unconscious on the floor. The house is catching fire. So we're meant to believe that he perishes in that building. Fire service, police, investigation, a burnt corpse. What was meant to happen? What happened? We're meant to just guess on our own, right? That the fire service came and put out the fire and they found a corpse, that Tunde was taken to the police and he was arrested. Why don't they show us what happened? Why do they leave it to us to fill in the blanks? And if this film is really about forgiveness and second chances, shouldn't Asari/Adire have tried to save Captain, to have lifted his body, dropped her belongings in the room, and tried to carry Captain out, or get people to help her carry Captain out of that burning building, and then the police show up and then they arrest Captain or something like that? If this film was really about second chances and forgiveness. But no, this woman who stole her pimp's money at the beginning of the film leaves her pimp to burn in a burning building, and then she goes to church at the end of the film as a changed woman and as a Christian and all that. Honestly, guys, I think I should have just done a video called Everything Wrong with Adire, because there were too many things faulty with this film. And the thing that irked me the most about this film, and it didn't dawn on me until I had a conversation with a friend of mine just last night, was the fact that I'm a man of faith, and I say it once in a while in my reviews, but I try not to bring it up because it may put my objectivity in question, because you need to be objective when you review movies, right? However, if a person is really a person of faith, it will be very hard for you to put your faith aside for the benefits of something like a review of, like a movie that you want to review. Now, let me explain further. This movie is about a lady of the night who wants to be a changed woman and accepted in the church. It happens every day. It's real life, right? But for that, there's a way that kind of thing happens. You renounce your old life, you confess your sins to Jesus, and you accept him as your personal Lord and Savior and all that stuff, and you become a changed person, and you abandon that old life. Like Jesus and the woman caught in adultery. He who has not sinned, cast the first stone. The guys left. Woman, where are your accusers? They gone. Go and sin no more. There's a process to redemption, to redemption and salvation, essentially, right? They are trying to portray Asari slash Adire seeking redemption and bringing the church into it, but they're not doing it the proper way. This woman goes to the church not because she wants to give her life to Christ or to serve Jesus or to devote her life to the service of her Lord and Savior. No, she goes to the church because that's where her clients are. They invite her to the church and she's just looking for community. She's not particularly interested or keen in changing her lifestyle and becoming a born-again Christian. So it seems as if the church is infused into this movie out of convenience, and they manipulate the whole church and religion thing for their benefits, for the benefit of this film, and at the same time not making prostitution look like the terrible thing that it actually is. Okay? So, I mean, I was trying to go with it both times. I was trying to go out, when I say go with it, I was just trying to go with the flow and just accept it for art's sake and creativity and objectivity and all that. But it just kept rubbing me the wrong way in terms of my values and who I am at my core, which is really, at the end of the day, why I really could not accept this film. Well, another reason why I could not accept this film. The writing and how they went about the movie is another thing entirely that didn't work, but based on the faith element and how they tried to, infuse faith and manipulate faith and all that into the film, it didn't sit right with me. Guys, like I said at the beginning of the review, this film does have its audience. There are people who will not think too much, or who have seen the film already and didn't think too deeply about the movie and just enjoyed it for what it was. Kudos to them. I'm happy for them. If you enjoyed it, I'm happy for you. But as for me, and I'm speaking for myself, I did not enjoy this film. So many things could have been done so much better. And I feel like even in the making of this film, there wasn't coherence. I don't think everybody was aligned in terms of what they wanted to do when they were making this film. And it seemed rather apparent to the keen observer. This was Filmhouse Studios' first original movie. Hopefully, they'll do much better with their subsequent efforts. For me, you can tell that I really did not enjoy this film. I give it 1 jollof over 5. I'm wondering if I should give it a 0.5 jollof, but let me just give it 1 jollof. This is pretty much the first review I'm doing in 2024. So let's start with 1. Yeah? Guys, if you enjoyed this review, please like it by clicking on the like button and subscribe to my channel as well by clicking on the black subscribe button. I do Nollywood movie reviews. I talk about other stuff. You can find the other stuff in the corner of the screen. Talking about this film has really dampened my spirits. When I remember the fact that I've seen this movie twice, 2 hours and 3 minutes of my life, twice, I'm pained. Do all the things, guys. Like, subscribe, share with friends and family. If you're involved with the making of Adire, it's not personal. I just think you could have done a much better job. But regardless, this is just my opinion, and I know it doesn't count for much. And regardless of how I felt about your film is probably still a commercial success. Kudos to you. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.